Well, it's been a big year for Brisbane-based contemporary artist Judy Watson, who in 2006 has taken out not one, but two major art prizes, the Clemenger Contemporary Art Award and the Works on Paper Prize at this year's National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Art Awards. Judy began her career 20 years ago as a printmaker. Then, inspired by a journey to her grandmother's ancestral home in northwest Queensland, she began working on canvas, creating dreamlike landscapes, exploring her Aboriginal history. In 1995, Judy won the Mowat and Shandon Fellowship, and in '97 co-represented Australia at the Venice Biennale with Emily Carme-Kingwarry and Yvonne Kulmatri. Early this year, Judy returned to France as part of a group of 8 Indigenous artists commissioned to create work for the new Musée de Quai Branly in Paris. Well, let's meet Judy Watson now in conversation with Virginia Trioli.
Judy Watson, welcome to Sunday Arts.
Thank you.
An auction house once asked you whether you wanted to be included in their catalogue in the Aboriginal art or the contemporary art section. Right. What was your response?
Both.
What did that question say to you?
Oh, it just said pigeonholing once again, and I don't step away from my identity. I'm both Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal, contemporary, everything.
You've had a very big year, haven't you? You've won 2 significant art awards, the Clemenger and also the National Indigenous Art Award, and you've been to Paris for the opening of the wonderful Musée de Quai Branly, which features the work of so many important Indigenous artists. Has the girl from Mundubra changed very much along the way?
Yes, I have changed a lot, but I also retain my grassroots and my ground learning experiences with my family. Every time I travel, I take my culture and country with me, and it's the same whether it's going to Paris or whether it's going on a recent trip up to Mount Isa.
You describe yourself as a person of 2 worlds. Can you tell us about those 2 heritage areas, those 2 histories and places?
Well, it's probably not even 2, it's many things. I mean, firstly, born in Mundubra, grew up in Acacia Ridge. As Cliff Wattigo used to say, I'm not a mission black, a housing commission black. But I do a lot of research on my grandmother's heritage, which is Aboriginal. She was born in 1912 on Riverslea Station in northwest Queensland.
This is Grace Isaacson.
Grace Isaacson, yes.
She's a very important figure to you, and it seems also in your work, her country is an important place for you as well. Tell us about that.
Absolutely, it's a touchstone for me. Well, we've been up there a number of times now, and I've just been up with my kids recently during the school holidays, driving up there again, and we went as far as the O'Shaughnessy River and to Riverslea Station from a distance. But Lawn Hill Gorge is also part of that country, and it's very beautiful, it's very lush, it's fed by subterranean water, and it's got beautiful fringing cabbage tree palms and, you know, full of wildlife, water life, and around it looks very stark and desert-like. So it's just a beautiful place to spend time.
As you said, you've taken a number of trips there. Is it a different place? Do you comprehend it in a different way each time? Because I guess, of course, over the years, from your very earliest well-documented trips to the most recent one, you must take with you more information, more knowledge, more understanding of your grandmother's story, of that heritage, and of Aboriginal people from that area.
It's true. It's a slowly unravelling history for me and for my family, because even seeing my grandmother recently, she's going to be 95 this year.
And still
going at Laura Johnson Home and doing really well. She tells more and more stories, and my cousin Julie, who sees her every week, says there are still things she comes out with that she hasn't heard before. So she's a constant mine of information and just a great storyteller.
There's a number of familiar and repeated forms in your work. There's the lozenge shape, which is the canoe. There's the shells, the middens, the termite mounds. Are these tied to your country, to that country?
They are. Going into Lawn Hill Gorge the first time, I remember seeing the termite mounds and felt they were like guardians to the country, and they were watching us go in there. And so I've returned to those forms again and again. So I see them as guardian ancestor figure forms. And there's the shape, which is this sort of shape, which relates to some of the rainbow engravings and things from that area as well. There's many things I've seen, but there's also been motifs that I've picked up from my travels, both in Australia and overseas too.
You started, Judy, as a printmaker, but I love, if I've read the story correctly, that it was actually nature and the intervention of the wind that sort of turned you from only printmaking to consider canvas painting. Can you tell us about that experience?
Oh, it was carrying a large drawing and flapping around to I think it was an exhibition or something in Townsville, and it immediately tore down the middle in the wind, and so I thought, I've got to try another medium.
I love that it could be something so simple that can make such a life-changing experience. Because you'd been a bit wary about the whole idea of embracing the artist on canvas thing, hadn't you?
I had been. I'd been sort of retreating into printmaking and seeing it very much as art for the people, and, you know, making a lot of posters along the way.
And that canvas was somehow a little more elitist?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was always this high art aesthetic, and then it's sort of like, well, it just drew me into it, and cloth is so forgiving. I work on it, I have my lunch on it, I wrap myself up in it. And I remember in New York making a whole exhibition that I could roll up into one roll and carry under my arm and send it off. So it's very, you know, travel friendly.
Well, that's an interesting connection too to a lot of women Indigenous painters who treat the canvases that way as well.
Absolutely.
Where they've got a leg slung over one side, the dog is sort of sitting over there and they're just working on one corner.
That's right.
But you've always said that you love the process of printmaking. The process of making art has been very important to you. Did you want to try and keep elements of that process in the way that you then approach canvas?
I do. The lithographic wash, which I still love and still use.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, it's pooling water and floating touche, which is a greasy medium, into the wash, and then as it reticulates or dries, it leaves behind these beautiful lines, almost like the tide going out. And I always wet the canvas or the paper with water first, and then literally float, pool the washes into it, allow them to dry, and then refloat, you know, and submerge more and more things into those pools. And it's like the idea of pulling something out. It's looking down into it and pulling something out in a very subconscious way.
There's also the notion of the palimpsest in there as well, where perhaps there's something written on another, written on another, written on another.
Absolutely.
Does that go to the idea of country? Does it go to the idea of memory? Or are we talking here about a purely aesthetic approach to the canvas?
No, it's much more than that. It's through the body and it is subliminal. And limestone, I think it was Anne Markle's book, talks about, in Fugitive Pieces, limestone is the reef of memory. And limestone is a stone which is found all through Riversley Station, where, you know, there's a study of fossils. And so it's, and even the limestone blocks in lithography, they are literally sometimes embedded with fossils and things like that. And sometimes you get a ghost image emerging from a previous image that's there once you've ground down the stone and then worked into it. And it will just come up from underneath, be attracted to the grease and go to the surface.
That must be a remarkable experience.
Oh, it's amazing, yeah.
Those early works led to, at least thematically, an important work for you, which was a preponderance of Aboriginal blood. Talk to me about that work, because the form that it ended up in as well, in that very beautiful artist book, was a very important part of this too.
Yeah, that was, it came after hearing Loris Williams talking on the subject of Indigenous people and voting rights in Queensland in particular. And at that stage, the State Library had asked a number of artists to consider working on a book, an artist book, related to the idea of voting rights in Queensland because of, you know, that particular time in history. And I thought, I'll just go along to this lecture, but I'm too busy, you know, I've got too many things on. And as soon as I heard Loris say a preponderance of Aboriginal blood and half-blood and some of the other terms which were used at the time, I thought, I have to do this.
Why did that phrase, which is being quoted from that rather black period of our history, why did that grab you?
I think there is something about it going through the blood and that connection with my family, and realising that it was because of blood. Quantum, they call it, you know, sort of in the US. Friends of mine who are Native American talk about this issue of blood quantum separating their families and deciding who can stay on the reservation and who can't. And the same thing happened here as well. The notion of who your father was, who your mother was, just determined whether you could actually leave the country that you were in, you know, what rights you had, and that certainly affected my grandmother and our family in general.
You were dealing with images of documents and using this pooling or ink splot stain of blood over the top of it. that immediately takes you into the field of political art? Were you aware there of trying to walk some boundary between the sort of aesthetic you wanted to work with and the idea you were communicating as well? What's the balance in there for the artist?
Well, I don't really see it as a balance for the artist. The artist is led by what they want to do, and I really wanted to do this work, and I never consider my work to be not political. It's always political. At times it might be more overt, as in the case of this work, and at other times it's not. It's, you know, it's more hidden.
There is a dreamlike quality to much of your work, though, and you were speaking before about the floating of the substance and of the image within it. Are your works mysterious to you? Do you know exactly where you're going in that process and where you're going to end up? Or are there sometimes revelations?
Oh no, there's always revelations, and that's why I love being an artist, because I'm led by the work. And I think writers talk about this too. The characters often lead them on a journey, and the work does the same thing. I'll start off with a premise and some ideas and lots of research, and then maybe I can't make that particular work with that research or that body of information because I'm being led in a different direction, and then in a cyclical way I'll come back and find what that work, you know, how it needs to be told.
Are your works maps or landscapes, some of them?
I think they're all of that, but it's sort of, as somebody described it once, it's like being under the ground and looking up through it, or being under the water looking up through it. Which
is the reversal of what a great deal of Indigenous art is, according to the maker, where we actually are suspended above the landscape looking down at it. Has that element never entered your thought process or your work?
It does. Sometimes I'm very drawn to open-cut mines, I have to say.
Why?
Well, Mount Isa and, you know, lots of other places too, you know, growing up with that mining and that, I guess, interference with country and that idea of looking down into it.
That's the archaeologist in you, isn't it? I mean, there seems to be something of the archaeologist in your attachment to that land and wanting to bury down and dig down into it.
Yeah, I am interested in hidden histories. I've always been interested in those concealed histories within Australia and overseas, and I like finding out, sifting through the layers.
I think that the work that you did, I think you still describe it as in really good nick at the Casula Powerhouse.
That's right.
Which is the floor work that you did really fits into that very well. Tell us about that piece.
Well, that's an old turbine powerhouse, industrial site, which was, you know, used by many people in the 50s. It was a source of power for Sydney, Western Sydney, and all of a sudden it was being abandoned, and the local community decided to vote on it and make it an arts centre. And I was commissioned to work on the floor, and I also went around with Indigenous people from that area and looked at sites in the area. There were scar trees, there were axe grinding grooves, canoe trees, some of them in local housing estates. So, I mean, I love that. I love the way that things, you know, sort of sit together.
Yes.
And so I wanted to do a dual history of the place because it has that, and to honour all of the people who've spent time there and who are living there now. So I asked the workers to actually just leave 7 sites on the floor which had old cracks or grates or pipes within the floor itself. You know, so that was all left, and then it became light pools. And so there's heavy glass on top with a sacrificial layer which can get replaced, you know, if it gets cracked. The concrete got laid, but it also got pigment troweled into it. We followed a pseudo sort of line of the Georges River around the columns and basically just kept those industrial scars, which I think are very beautiful, and I always love them in old buildings anyway, but also related back to the history, you know, pre-industrial site.
And these are historical pools that one can lean over and look into.
That's right.
You've done a number of public commissions. There was Wallama at Sydney Airport and Warraka at the Melbourne Museum. How do you find working in that environment? You've always got a great deal of bureaucracy to deal with when you're doing the old public commission.
Oh, it's always a nightmare.
Is it? Are there any pleasures to be had from it?
The pleasure is the budget. It's as an artist, you suddenly get to deal with an extended sort of extension of your media, and so suddenly I'm propelled to work in glass or steel or you know, any sorts of things which are beyond what I can afford to make myself. And also you're within the public arena, so you have to take all of that into consideration. I do a lot of research on the site, so I learn so much. You know, it's very enriching to make the work, and I love dealing with all the specialists. you know, the concreters, the electricians, the architects, everybody. It's a fascinating meshing of knowledge all coming together and all working for the same purpose.
I think the most recent public commission of yours was for the Brisbane Magistrates Court.
Yes.
And there were a couple of problems with that work, I think. Tell us about those.
Well, one day there was a beautiful, you know, piece of mine installed there I was very happy with, and the next day a security screen suddenly appeared in front of it.
This is Heartland River, is the name
Yes,
of the piece?
Heartland River.
You mean attached to it, or?
No, it was just plonked in front of it.
Right, good.
But, yeah, this is often a case, I think, for artists and public art, and probably architects as well, who design a beautiful building and then something happens. But after discussions with the builders and with the architect, you know, Cox Rayner, they decided to cut off, basically with an angle grinder, part of that. And it was fantastic. I mean, it still intrudes, but it's not as bad as it was.
It's kind of nice. It sort of almost echoes what you did at the powerhouse, where you sort of, you know, cut into the ground and find something below it.
I know.
The new edition of McCulloch's Encyclopedia of Australian Art has Aboriginal art entirely in one section in that encyclopedia. I'm wondering if, according to you, as one of our best-known artists, if that's an extension of that question you were asked all that time ago, contemporary artist versus Indigenous artist, or is it something else for you?
I think, you know, Indigenous art is the most interesting work that is happening within Australia and the world at this moment in time, and I think it will be for a long time. So I think the fact that it was ever going to fade away, you know, that's certainly a notion that can be put to bed now.
It's great to have you on the program. Judy Watson, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Judy Watson is about to embark on 2 new public artworks. She'll be designing rugs of ceremonial significance for Queensland's new State Library, and will also contribute to the visual arts component of Reconciliation Place in Canberra.